Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I will explain as I go along why I have chosen this title. The fire, which you can see, is the destruction of the library in Moscow of the Social Science Research Centre. My title is Fire, Fire, the Library is Burning. How are we to train information professionals to quench the flames? And what I will say will reflect a good bit of what both Scott and David had to say yesterday, but will not replicate it. About 10 years ago, with Seamus Ross, then a colleague at the University of Glasgow, and until very recently, Dean of the High School at Toronto, I attended a conference at the University of North Carolina, where we spoke about our experiences in setting up a new information science master's program at the University of Glasgow. This was subsequently published, if you want to read it, in the Journal of Education and Library and Information Sciences in 2007. In this paper, we quoted a paper on this education by Nancy Van House and Stuart Stutton from the University of Berkeley, which had been published 10 years before, which set the parameters for developing master's programs such as ours at the University of Glasgow. And it bears, despite the length of time it is ago, to reiteration. They had two strands to their argument: the ecology theory and the sociological theory of professions by Pierre Bourdieu. Drawing on the thinking of Andrew DeLay Abbott, they insisted that the tools and services model of a profession are instantiations of its knowledge base designed for specific environments, and needed to be replaced in this education as the external environments change. And we heard a lot about changes in the external environment yesterday. They wholeheartedly agreed with that over-concentration on tools and services model, a characteristic of many LIS programs, leave the student with no ability to extend the underlying knowledge base to new members. They developed this perspective by exploring Bourdieu's analysis of the habitus of the matrix of prescriptions, appreciations, and professions. Questioning the continuing close connection between this education and libraries, whose future, as we often refer to even now, is in any way in doubt. They suggested the abstraction, reductions, and creation of new knowledge to address new information problems are necessary for this to adaptive radiation into new areas. Their premise was that this education should be information-centered abstraction with a variety of institutional foci reduction. Arguments that are too closely tied to current institutions, for example, libraries as they then were, and tools, for example, Library of Congress subject headings, lack the appropriate degree of abstraction. As I will argue, addresses in both advances in both technology and the expectations makes this premise even more true today than 20 years ago, let alone 10. A year after we published in JELIS, I wrote a review of 3 books about libraries for the sociology journal Minerva, and it was titled 9 o'clock, and all's well, as the watch would cry out, walking through the streets of medieval Europe, or fire, fire, the library's burning, the future of the academic library, hence the title of this talk. The most chilling of these three books, or so it seemed to me at the time, was a collection of essays edited by Michael Baudin under the title The Perspective of Higher Education in the Digital Age. So that's the premise from Alison Van House. And this is the Baudin book, which still bears rereading. Many of the predictions made by the contributors have turned out to be only too true. For example, Susan McKnight, librarian in the United Kingdom, the UNIVERSITARIAS Institute of Higher Education, called for embedding of information resources into the curriculum by integrating virtual learning environments, VLEs. As she put it, the librarian's skill, and we heard a lot about that yesterday, in information management and retrieval, cataloguing and quality assurance of data can and should be used to assist in developing institutional, digital, current content repositories and facilitating federated searching across a variety of information sources. Again, things we heard about a good deal yesterday. There can be very few universities, university programs anywhere in the world now that do not use VLEs. And as we all know, every university library has to live with institutional repositories and the preservation of research data, which I have more to say about. Some predictions have not yet come true, but there are threatening signs of a firestorm, such as the contention that current modalities are unsustainable and unaffordable, and suffer by trying to combine teaching and research in ways that serve only to drive up costs, and do they not? This is all too true. Higher education is overpriced and does not any longer represent value for money, particularly in residential universities. The response of Baudin and his contributors was to use technology to match changing behaviours, to meet rising demand and to contain costs. And many university libraries have done that. With the advent of massive open online courses MOOCs, which we again heard about yesterday, this has happened. Although the university as a physical entity, like the Marxist state, has not yet withered away. In the last chapter of Baudin's book, Bruce Winston from Richmond Research Centre in Virginia outlined a scenario in which the world's publishers, by taking control of the means of production and distribution, overrule the academy in the delivery of learning. In Winston's future, libraries will continue to exist, but may look more like museums where one-of-a-kind archives are held, such as the Library of Congress. Patrons of the university library would spend their time studying archives as one might do in museums, but the traditional book would be available by electronic access through subscription services. This is happening. We have all encountered available in Google Books or through the Hattie Trust in library catalogues. Some content is indeed disappearing behind paywalls, and libraries are shedding so-called redundant stock at unprecedented unprecedented levels. However, as an archivist, for much of my career, as you've heard, our programmes at Glasgow, from the very beginning, took seriously the notion of one-of-a-kind archives by exploring a whole range of genre that can be considered as evidence and can expect to find its way into a digital repository or library, if you will. This was prescient, as today a host of different media can be found attached, for example, to a text message or an email, and as we have seen, or as we're about to see, scholarship are using a host of social media to communicate all these present, and all these present very serious challenges and require theoretical underpinnings. Against this background, educators are faced with a conundrum. What should we teach our students on master's programmes, which in the United Kingdom last for 1 year, in effect about 20 weeks of teaching, and in the United States, in some other countries, between 18 months and 2 years, again, not many weeks of teaching. What we cannot do is to produce baby information professionals first in the current outmoded paradigms. But what we can do is to encourage students to think about the issues that they will confront during their careers, which only for a few are likely to be within the academy. If we return to Van House and Sutton's plea for information-centred abstraction with a variety of institutional foci, reduction, we may find some firm ground under our feet rather than the shifting sand of endless possibilities. Very few students who enlist in our programmes have ever encountered any philosophy or even any theory, and are remarkably unfamiliar with the great streams of European thought about the relationship of information and technology, or Aristotle would say techne, that stretch back to classical times. And this is a good place from which to embark on any programme of study with a sufficient degree of abstraction. It may seem strange, but students enjoy being made to think and it makes their heads hurt. There is a mass of contemporary writing on what might be called loosely the philosophy of the internet, with which I would also include some of the emerging neuroscience that has ramifications for libraries as physical space. For example, the British neuroscientist Susan Greenfield argues in her latest book, Mind Changes, How Digital Technologies Are Leaving Their Mark on Our Brains, that exposure to the internet is changing the way our brains work. Mark Prensky, the educationist who coined the term digital natives and digital immigrants, holds much the same opinion, but from a very different perspective. A really big discontinuity has taken place. One might even call it a singularity, an event which changes things so fundamentally that there is absolutely no going back. This so-called singularity is the arrival and rapid dissemination of digital technology in the last decades of the 20th century. Andrew Keane, Nicholas Carr, and Jean Marnier all hold very similar opinions. Tara Brabazon, whose book, The University of Google, cover of which you can see here, Education in a post-information age, attracted a good deal of attention when it was first published in 2007 for its forthright attack on the impact of the digital on higher education. But she seems to have shifted her ground recently, partly it would seem because most of those other authors have extreme views and do not see as she does, or just do not see as she does, that life and learning are not filed neatly into analog and digital folders. They spark and dialogue. Other authors fail to look back to previous examples of the transition to communication technologies, most obviously the coming of printing. This is often mistakenly, and we heard that repeated yesterday, linked to the Protestant Reformation, as Martin McCune would have us believe. But in fact, evidence suggests that the Counter-Reformation made much more effective use of printing than the Reformers. The shift from patient copying by hand to mass production and distribution resulted over time, and over quite a long time, in precisely the same singularity that Prensky describes, from which there was absolutely no going back. But it's arguable that it did not change things so rapidly, or in the ways that some of the alarmist critics of the digital environment suggest. Brabazon is nearer the mark when she suggests that the analog and the digital interact with each other in much the same way that when printing first began, it imitated script to ensure a seamless connection with the past. Only later, when were newer fonts created that made both printing and reading easier. It was never imagined that printing would replace script in a binary exchange. In most universities, it is possible to illustrate the foci of these arguments by showing students the treasures in special collections so they can see for themselves. And we were very lucky in Glasgow to have a famous Hunterian collection of early printed books and manuscripts where we could take students and show them not only the objects themselves, but the processes by which they were created. What may be lacking in a digital environment is a loss of reflection, that moment of staring at the wall or the screen, lost in thought and reflexivity. As Julia Gillen put it, how we come to interpret and reflect upon our own actions and experience and communicate these to others. To others in specific languages and practices. The screen does not intrinsically present or inhibit either of these, apart from its apparent insistence on the shortening of time. There is no reason to strike a deal in nanoseconds, as some Wall Street traders would believe, or to respond immediately to an email, any more than there was to settle accounts in 3 days or to reply to a letter the day it was received. These are all matters of personal choice, and there are many practices designed to inhibit such behaviour by emphasising the importance of reflection, such as mindfulness. What might be different may be the sheer tractability of the web, that is the handmaiden of the systemic risk that lay at the heart of so much of the trouble in the 2008 financial crisis. It is a truism to say that the insurance group AIG could not have bet the whole of the world's gross domestic product without the the internet. The same could be said of the part played by the postal service, of the telegraph, or the cable in other financial catastrophes. In fact, when communications were poor or non-existent, greater trust was needed to prevent fraud or ill-timed transactions. When exchange rates were much more unstable than they are today, or news took a long time to reach market, transactions were much more risky. As we all know from Shakespeare's play, The Merchant of Venice. This is why it was not until the coming of the submarine cables to the Far East that futures trading became possible in the commodity markets. Merchants in London needed access to local market intelligence before fixing prices forward. That meant for goods that may take several months to arrive in London. This is why it is important for students to understand that there is a long history to techno and that there have always been new technologies. Behind all these arguments lies the question that has troubled philosophers since classical times and should worry information professionals today, of how we conceive of technology. Do we conceive of it as neutral, somebody said yesterday, in a Platonic tradition, or do we endow it with agencies, as McLuhan did in his much-quoted catchphrase, "The medium is the message," a form of technical determinism that shaped the scale and form of human associations, and in so doing, he was endowing an inanimate object with agency in what has come to be termed the linguistic term. The debates he sparked still has currency. Greenfield echoed McLuhan when she suggests that the digital technology can, in some ill-defined way, shape the patterns of neurons in our brains. Peter Verbeek, the Dutch philosopher of technology, has sought to navigate a path between these two opposite perspectives by introducing the concept of mediation, in which he argues helps to show that technologies actively shape the character of human-world relationships. He continues, technologies do not control processes of mediation all by themselves, for forms of mediation are always context-dependent, otherwise we back to a technologically determinist view. Although there are many other authors who have contributed to this debate, such as Heidegger, Ortman, Dreyfus, Donide, Bruno Latour, Verbeek's analysis helps us to grapple with the question at the heart of any NIST program. All communications in whatever form is mediated by technology, and as we all know, is context dependent. Once students grasp this and engage with literature that admittedly is not always easy to comprehend, they have a means of navigating the practicalities of the institutional foci, particularly the challenges of mediation in the digital age that is central to the theme of this conference. This is where your heads really begin to hurt. For the information manager, context in the digital environment is complex, not because it needs to be, but because practices that were second nature in the analog world have been abandoned, and we saw some ways of approaching that when David was speaking yesterday. Students need to grapple with this transition, which also interests sociologists and anthropologists. For example, a letter, such as one you can see here, written on a piece of paper, has a form and properties, that unambiguously provide the recipient with context. There was a letterhead declaring where it had been written, in this case Athol Abbey, which is in the United Kingdom, a date, the name of the person to whom it was addressed, and a salutation and valediction. These features often themselves convey information. A formal or informal valediction or salutation told the reader something about the relationship of the writer and the recipient. In business correspondence, the header often included a reference that encased the letter in a file plan, and that once the document was filed would give it further context. All these practices were built up over centuries, beginning with dockets, which were transformed over time into manila files, held together with bits of string. In many organisations, but particularly government, government bureaucracies, discussions and correspondence were usually summarised in what were known as minutes, often developed over time as policy evolved. Accounting records mostly follow double entry principles, first systematised by the Italian Franciscan Luca Pacioli in 1494 in his famous book Summa Arithmetica, which he actually also devised many of the symbols that we use in the film industry today. Receipts and invoices were referenced and entered carefully into a journal or organiser and posted to a ledger. In the ledger, balances were struck with suppliers and customers, and more often than not, the balance sheet and profit and loss accounts were calculated. Taken together, all these practices recorded context and provided an unambiguous audit trail which was easy to follow both practitioners and subsequent users. As technology developed and organisations grew and became more complex, these practices were simply transferred to a new environment. The appearance of the typewriter in the early 19th century changed little, in the early 20th century changed little, except that it made copying more straightforward, as did the invention of the photocopy. Change came first with the introduction of mechanical accounting systems, which meant there was no longer any need for journals or ledgers, as receipts and invoices could simply be coded and aggregated and disaggregated at will. In other words, a balance could be struck at the press of a button. Although the result was exactly the same as it had been in the analogue environment, the working was no longer visible. It was still an audit trail, but the context changed in the transition to the digital environment, leaving a much impoverished record for the archive or the library to capture. It is possible to link individual entries in the accounting database with individual receipts and invoices, but it's unrealistic to expect archives or libraries to keep them all. Given the way that the digital systems work, this transition was almost certainly inevitable. Less to be expected are the consequences of the introduction of the networked personal computer and the emergence of the internet, which coincided with the need to make organisations much more competitive by stripping out costs, and universities were no exceptions. This resulted in the disappearance of the secretaries who typed letters, managers now typing their own communications, largely emails, the closure of registries where files were maintained and stored, the closure of libraries, and the takeover of information systems by computer scientists. The outcome is not only the disappearance of systematic filing and well-organized reference libraries, but also a fundamental change in the way business is transmitted. This can be seen very obviously in the layout and features of emails, which have lost much of their form and structure of a letter. The recipient's name is now simply an email address that may or may not have much to do, say, about the identity of the person. The title of the email is usually less than informative, and the date is usually simply captured from the system itself. The content of the message usually lacks the salutations and valedictions of a letter, and it may only open with hi or hello, and end with the name or nothing at all. The other features is the ease with which people can be copied in, either explicitly, visibly, or implicitly, invisibly by copying. Moreover, the default of most email systems is to store everything, and as we all know, even when it has been deleted, it can be resurrected. In many organizations, the minute or memoranda has disappeared and has been replaced by an email thread. The stuff of mosaics. Although digital output is stored in what are called files, these bear no resemblance whatsoever to files in the analog world. It is the context of the technology that has led to this state of affairs, but the context of the content, which was inherently in the analog practice, has vanished, at least from the naked eye. Information managers and archivists imagined that they could overcome this state of affairs by intervening in the record creation process. Continuum thinking, which was developed at Monash University in Australia by Susan Kemish and Frank Upward, is predicated on this assumption. Archival documents first and foremost provide evidence of the transaction of which they are a part. From this they derive their meaning and information value. The effective creation and management of archival documents are critical to their use and the role they play in governing relationships in society over time and space. Their effective creation and management are also preconditions of an information-rich society and underpin the public accountability of government and non-government organisations. Freedom of information and privacy legislation, protection of people's rights and entitlements, and the quality of the archival heritage made up the document's continuing value. The concept of the archival document can provide a framework for greater shared understanding of the nature of recorded information and of the importance of transactional records to the continuing function of society. This all sounds very neat, but attempts to implement such policies have largely failed. The underlying premise was an attempt to recreate in a digital environment through the imposition of what are termed electronic records documents management systems, EBRMS, the registry systems of well-ordered binary catalogues, if you will, that had been swept away by its advent. Such systems are resented by management as they impose additional burdens and costs without contributing to efficiency, which from the outset was the main purpose of all registry systems. Busy staff who can see no added value or benefit in following prescriptive rules will not be bothered to file documents, particularly the plethora of emails that may or may not be important. Contrary to continuum thinking, The function of information and records management is not to create an archive which may or may not be the consequence of the process. Despite evidence that ERNS have been a failure, there are those who still cling to the idea that records management that will yield records for deposit in an archive or library can be mandated, particularly across government bureaucracies. They are profoundly mistaken, and as such, they divert attention away from the important question of what is it that the archivist or library is likely to receive as a tempest, which can be best characterised simply as stuff, which we heard about from David yesterday. With no discernible structure, with a few exceptions, such as the extensive box of homogeneous data, for example, from a Hubble telescope. This is very different from the analog paradigm, where archives and libraries could expect to accession records in some semblance of order, and where the context was discernible by simply looking at the content, and where possible is placed in file plan or registry systems or library catalogues. This is no longer the case, and anyway, registry systems and library catalogues are simply constructs. It is possible using various computational techniques to parse the content so that different genre can be separated, but in the absence of the familiar files of the analog world, and in the face of so much survives than before, that still leaves the question open of how to select what should be kept. As a rule of thumb, archivists kept about 5% of the content, but this is likely to rise. And there are pressures to keep and display more records, particularly in European countries, from family historians. For example, all the records of those who served in the wars of the 20th century. It could be argued that rather than trying to disentangle the content, everything should be kept, but that would impose considerable cost burden. So that there are considerable problems about what we should keep from this bunch of stuff. Once the content has been selected for preservation, the expectation is that it will become publicly accessible sometime in the future. For records produced by the public administration, this is not the same as freedom of information. This is the provision of information by due process in the archive or the library. But there is a problem about the data, because it has to be reviewed for sensitive content. And that is not just things related to national security. The bulk of it is personal information. And information that cannot be revealed needs to be redacted. This will not be, at the present time in the analog world, this, as you can see from this slide, is done by hand. I'm carefully working through the documents. When we are faced with this enormous bulk in the digital world, this simply will not be practical. And we need to try to develop tools that will allow us, at least to some extent, begin to automate the process. The Council of Libraries and Information Research in America has made it clear that no library should accept content on deposit that has not been reviewed for sensitivity, because if it does, it exposes the organisation to considerable contingent liability. The reason it's different in the digital world is because the content is so much more discoverable. Personal information is closed in European countries for 100 years or 110 years, less your age if it is known, and if it's not known, it's assumed to be 16, and for minors it's closed for the whole period. And these are very long closure periods. And we are trying at the University of Glasgow and the University of Northumbria to develop ways in which we can semi-automate these systems. And the project that I'm engaged in is called Project Abaca. Abaca is the Latin word for Manila, from which Manila folders were made. Those are those little brown things in which you could find file documents. And we have to try to explain to students how these processes might come about. Once content has been reviewed for sensitivity and placed in the digital repository, there is the question which David addressed yesterday of how on earth is it going to be used? Because it is simply stuff, and we will need to develop the tools that David is beginning to illustrate, those networks and other tools in order to interpret, for users to interpret the data. And there are a variety of techniques, graphs as he showed us, natural language processing techniques, and also forensic techniques. One thing that we have to grasp and understand as informational professionals, that we may be able to specify what we need, what needs to be done, but we will certainly not be able to understand the technology itself, because, as David said yesterday, this is very advanced computing. Using technologically dependent tools is integral, as we've seen, as I just said, to large amounts of heterogeneous stuff, in order to discover information that may seem at first sight to be different from, and this may at first sight become different from conventional catalogue finding aids. I just skip a bit. And in a sense, what we're doing is we're moving from a handicraft world into an industrial world. That the processes that we're going to have to develop and train our students to understand are no longer handicraft process. They've got to be on an industrial scale, given the sheer scale of the document, the information that is going to come our way. Before you think that this has got nothing much to do with conventional librarianship, think for a moment about what is going to turn up in your institutional repositories. Because as we begin to conduct, universities are now all competing on a global platform, all want to be in the top 200, and in order to do that, we have got to develop institutional repositories that not only take the publications of the academy, but also take large quantities of research data. If you think about research data and the way that academics across the whole range of disciplines operate, there will be lots and lots of stuff that would deem to be sensitive, that will need to be reviewed, and a judgment taken about the risks involved. And before you think that some of these tools may be very different from library catalogues, this is what Clifford Bentley directs the Council for National, the CNI in the States has said about library catalogues, that has a historical gerrymandering of knowledge into institutional collections belonging to communities. And we can expect some of these tools to overcome some of the issues that Clifford Bentley raises. I think another big problem that we have got to get our students to grapple with ourselves, that if David Rosenthal's estimates for the cost of digital storage are as high as the estimates, I have no reason to believe them, can we really justify keeping documents closed for 100 years? Because there are considerable costs involved. Or are we going to have to find new means of access? And one thing I think I have come to the conclusion that we have got to do is we have got to begin to provide data available through emulation services, and the Yoda experiment at Yale University and the Yale Emulation Service is well worth looking at. And these are other issues that we have got to introduce into our thinking. However, most of the students who are attracted to this course are attracted because they like old stuff. And this notion of industrial processes and mechanization are not ones that they are comfortable with. But having spent quite a lot of time wandering around old libraries in London, and this is the library at Oxford where I used to work, and these are from two different perspectives. You think it's the perspective of Greenfield, the basis of reflection, but also of Gertrude Himmelfarb, who also writes about libraries and sacred spaces, but we have got somehow to separate the notion of these spaces from our thinking because they are not very expensive and real estate is costly. And this brings me towards the end to some reflection on the user, which David Nicholas has spent a long time researching as part of the CIBER Research Centre, and we can do much more in thinking about user needs and the way that they might use this digital content. Because if we think about things back to front, the user needs may well drive what we are going to keep. So to return to my title, Fire, Fire, the Library is Burning, how can we train information professionals to quench the flames? The answer must be what Helga Nowotny, who chairs the European Research Advisory Board of the European Commission, termed transdisciplinarity, an expectation of joint problem solving, and this is more than just the juxtaposition, more than lying one discipline alongside another. The information science community, lies it does, at its intersection of many disciplines, again as we heard yesterday, is well placed to pursue such a course to adaptive radiation into new areas. This is the message we must drive home to our students. Their careers may be robbed of the comfortable surroundings, the book stacks and the reading rooms, but they may be intellectually hugely exciting if they have the confidence to engage with a transdisciplinary paradigm. If the library retreats into itself, it will deservedly be engulfed by flames. I think the only reassurance is that books and paper do not burn very well. Thank you.